Hey guys, it's your boy M.K.S. Hope everyone's well. Back at you another video. I went for a walk. It's really nice weather out there. Sorry, I always give that trivial info, but it's really good weather out there. I'm really happy about the weather because I love a lovely blue sky. Anyway, as I was going for my walk, I thought about this, and part of me does think it's a bit like a business person talking about something negative about their own product as an Italian football fan. But I thought I'd give some of the admittedly negative things, or bad things. I couldn't fit the whole title in, which I wanted to put in, but bad or negative things about Italian football. As a fan, to admit to some of those things, just to be honest, and again to give both sides of the story, both perspectives, and yeah, I just thought I'd go talk about some of the negative things. As I talked before about some of my patterns, I like to at 1,300 hours because I think 13 being unlucky. So I like to talk about some of the negative things or things like things I'm worried about or negative. But anyway, I thought I'd do this just and making a positive out of negative. Or I often think of this thing when I say, "May you find light in your darkest hour," or "May you find joy in your worst hour," or stuff like that, or hope, or whatever. But so I thought if this video does make any money in the future, I hope to donate some of that, or donate it all to Italian football, so to make a positive from a negative. But anyway, I thought about some of the things about Italian football, some of the negative things. So number one, I think it's known to be a bit boring and defensive. Like there's not much attacking or flair. There's flair kind of, but a defense itself is an art. But for many fans, I've heard talk about saying it's too defensive. It's not attacking like Brazilian football or stuff, or Argentinian football, which is more attacking. And also people don't get stuck in as much like they do in the Premier League, and that sort of thing. So that's something that you could say is what many people think of negative about Italian football, and possibly something that people think is one of the worst, if not the worst things about it, to be honest. So that's something I think it would be cool to change. Part of me thinks, why should I talk about some of the negatives or focus on the negatives? But maybe it's something that could be changed. But as I say, I thought I'd talk about some of the alternative views or opinions or whatever. Number two, I say I'd love to hear from what other people think about their. I know I always have this habit of talking about a list of 30 things, and when I make these videos, I break them up into 3 videos with each having 10 points. So sometimes it's difficult to think about that many ideas, but I'd love to hear from people about what they think is negative about Italian football and what they'd change about it, and that sort of thing. Number 3, I suppose Italian football doesn't get stuck in as much as like the Premier League, and I suppose it's not quite as entertaining, to be honest, as a Spanish league. In the future, I'd love it to be as sort of like learn from each other possible league and like develop some of those like free-flowing football and entertaining, attacking, and that sort of thing. And I also want to make a positive version of this, but I thought, as I said, I'd cover some of the negative things and some of the things that perhaps need changing. Number 4, Italian football can be quite violent, like with football hooligans called ultras. So, unfortunately, again, that's another thing I think is it's very negative about Italian football. Some people might even say it's worse than the defensive side of football, or what's seen as very boring. But it's also football hooliganism. I know you get that in other countries like England or even France or Spain or even Germany or places like that. But I do think that's something that I would love to change as well, and I think it's quite negative. Number 5, it does have a lot of strategies or tactics, but some people think it's too strategic, or, as I say, too defensive or too tactical, and it's not so much like heart and spirit like you might get in England. So it's too sort of structured in defence, and rather than actually having the spirit to like keep battling or things like that. And perhaps people are a bit more prima donnas and they don't track back and things like that. Number 6, I think sometimes in Italian football it's like a lot of hard work, but not towards an end goal, or like scoring goals, which, as they say, goals win games and things like that. So in that way, it's not quite as good. Again, another thing I'd love to change, more attacking and like sort of have an end product and things like that. Number 7, conversely, I think like people in Italian football can be a bit lazy, and also like prima donnas and care more about how they look or things like that. And if they lose the ball, don't track back as much, or as I say, get stuck in as much and that sort of thing. Number 8, there's a lot of hate and extreme politics, like extreme right and extreme left, which I talked before about. And also, as I say, it's a bit negative and defensive. But as I say, there's unfortunately quite a lot of, as I say, hate or prejudice and violence and racism and things like, even possibly, dare I say, unfortunately, nationalism and things like that, which I think are a shame, fascism and things like that. So I think that's something that it would be great to change. And I must admit, like, part of me wonders why people from Africa or Australasia, like Aborigines and Maoris or people like that, or like Indigenous Australasians or Native Americans or people like that, or even people from Asia, why would they want to support Italian football if it's really prejudiced or racist or doesn't get on well with other countries? So I love Italians to get on well with other countries more, and the league to promote that, because that could help the game to improve, like marketing and things like that. So number 9, I think sometimes there's not a plan B. So, like, unfortunately, like, if English teams are losing, they sometimes seem to have a plan B and be able to be versatile to change the game, things like that. So I think that's another thing that's a shame, that leads to less trophies, which also perhaps makes, if you're talking about Italian football's attractiveness to overseas owners, it might be not quite as good, because, as I say, there's no plan B to sort of win games, and that doesn't lead to trophies, which is what and brand value, which is what overseas owners would perhaps look for. Number 10, historically, I'll say as a fan, have a tendency to play much more older players rather than younger players. So I think that's quite a weakness, because I think it's much better to develop youth, and I think that's something Italian football should do more. So really, a lot of this is like what I think Italian football should do less of, and what I think we should do more. We as a fan, I say, should do more of, and what sort of things we should change. So again, I know I said in the intro, it's like kind of a business person talking about a negative thing about their own project, or product. But I thought I'd address some of these things, and I suppose, one, to talk about different opinions, or listening to your alternative opinion, and 2, talking about things that we could change and improve. So, like, it's like looking at your own weaknesses, and if you looked in business, like, possibly looked at your own weaknesses, so what you can improve. So I'd love to know, as ever, what you think about this. Please comment in the comment section, like, if there's anything you dislike about Italian football, or even maybe even hate. And I hope you look for the opposite. I hope you look for part 2 and 3, but also look at some of the videos I want to talk about later about the positive sides and how I hope to market Italian football, and some of the improvements that have been made and continue to improve, with ideas and things like that. So anyway, hope that made sense, and I hope I'll get some likes as well. And what would what would you like to change about Italian football, or what would make you become a fan of Italian football? Anyway, I'm out. Peace and love.